Yo, just want to tell you, this will be my 1000th video on the YouTube channel. And we also reached recently 10 million views. It's kind of a big deal for the channel. So I thought for 1000 videos, maybe we film a special Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, literal AMA, ask me anything in the comments below. I'll either answer them there or I'll film a nice video about it. And there you go. Carry on. Hey guys, Azzapp here and welcome to yet another educational Vel'Koz video. Today we're taking a look into the Mentalist Vel'Koz gameplay, the mental manipulations. Last video of this nature, the 10 levels of geometry, really popped off on YouTube. You guys seem to love it. It was a good video, honestly. And yeah, I want to make more, so if you have any good ideas, what you want to see, write in the comments down below. Thank you to all the patrons and everyone supporting. You guys are fucking phenomenal. Let's take a deeper look and understand why Vel'Koz is one of the greatest champions in this game. So first, we're going to start off naturally with simpler examples, and then move on to the more complex and robust ones, which will include and lead us eventually to the infamous clip of TF Blade raging at his LCS mid laner getting destroyed by 150 ping Vel'Koz.
Azzapp, the freaking Academy or LCS one time, lose as Akali vs Vel'Koz, which is a good matchup for Akali, one-on-one against a Vel'Koz with 150 ping. Like, I can't understand it. He was literally an LCS player, and you have a good matchup, and the other guy is like 150 ping. That's unplayable.
Seriously, every time I talk to TF Blade, he mentions that very game. It's become such a meme so far. It's crazy. So as you know, one of my challenges that I get annually is NA Challenger with 150 ping, and one must develop mind reads and mental manipulation as a necessity if you really want to climb. So let's take a look at how it's done. Fat stacks, check this out, check this out. He goes for an E, he goes for an E. Ah! Okay, so first clip we have is from a botched Russian campaign, but it doesn't really matter. The principle is extremely generalized. So the thing that's happening here is something that Dota players have a privilege to, that League of Legends players are yet to learn. And this is why I kind of was decent at this game when I started. Because in Dota, if you guys don't know, you have a chance to deny your own minions from enemies if you can last hit them. So they lose gold. So that leads you to track your own minions' HP, and you track enemy movement regarding to the minion HP. So you really develop this habit of predicting when enemies are going to go in for a minion, then you look for an opportunity to punish. This is the kind of lowest form of manipulation. The only part that's manipulative about this is actually letting the enemy come for 1E and timing your QR along with it. So as you can tell, I kind of predict where he's going to E, and as soon as he goes for it, we just let him have that false sense of security and go with a QR. So very, very simple stuff. She has no ult, she has no ult. You wanna be flashy, Chuck? You wanna be flashy, Chet? Just... Okay, this is from the NA campaign, and the second example is an extremely valid principle. Now, this works for every single champion, but it works specifically well in Vel'Koz, and I absolutely implore you to understand how this works. So this is one of the key things you will be using in laning phase. In this case, it's very cool. It's just a one-shot on Ahri, and we are kind of fed. At this point, the game is over, but it doesn't really matter. It's just a really good principle of the dance. Okay, this is the lane diagonal. So here we're going to be looking at the lane diagonal, which is an extremely key principle in this game. Every mid laner with higher caliber uses this, and you need to know it. Okay, it's all about positioning. I don't know if you paid attention here or if you noticed it. The QR looks cool, but the leading moment to the QR is even more important. When we look at why we call it the diagonal is because there's this dichotomy in lane where some characters can shoot through minions and some can't. Okay, so Ahri versus Vel'Koz, Orianna versus Vel'Koz, they have the advantage of shooting through the wave while you don't. So what happens is every time I move left, the enemies are gonna move right to avoid that clear line of sight. And this is where you see the dance. I'm trying to find an opening, and it's all about that mind game. I go left, she goes right. I go right, she goes left, and I juke back to go right, and then I juke back to left, so she's stuck on right. That was a bit confusing, which is why I slowed down the video, and I really want you to pay attention and understand this, because this, even now for some of you, this concept is probably clicked in your brains, and now you remember seeing this all the time, and you probably use this without even knowing it. Once you consciously start using this, you can purposefully bait enemies into positions that are to your benefit. Once you get a hang of this, you can even use this to detect enemy junglers. If you look for an opening and go left, and the enemy remains in the same line of sight, which is pretty awkward for him in terms of laning stage, that probably means that his jungler is also hovering left sight. So now they are trapping you, actually, because he feels comfortable on that side. And this is why good players never stand still. Good players will always be probing, trying to gather more data so they can make better decisions. If that is to bait the enemies, manipulate them, just look for specific opportunities for skill shot, not necessarily an execution, or trying to feel them out to see where their pressure is. Which also unlocks another mind game, which is bluffing, and it goes into the poker stuff. Okay, let's move on to the third example. Oh, baby, let's go. Okay, I'm pretty sure everyone understood this concept immediately. It looks very obvious what we're doing here, but in a panic scenario, this is very tough for Evelyn to respond. The only way I can achieve a kill here is by Evelyn making a mistake, because she obviously has flash, and we just have to make her believe that she can actually dodge it. But by shooting both abilities pretty much at the same time, we panic them into a specific movement pattern. As you can see here, the way we cast our W into Q. What is that jitter? I have no idea. So we use W, as you guys know, on Vel'Koz, W has no animation time, while Q does. So you can use Q right after W to mask the animation and kind of shoot two abilities at the same time. And that way, she gets hit by W and then she's like, okay, I have to run away from W, but there's the Q immediately on the opposite side and she runs back into the W. And I wouldn't have killed with Q here. If you can tell, this is like level 1 Vel'Koz Q, which is not enough damage to execute here. The only way to kill is if she gets hit by both, which is exactly what happens. And that's such a rare scenario that heavily relies on enemy mistake. This is also why, precisely why, a lot of Vel'Koz plays go unnoticed and are not really perceived as highlights because they're just enemy mistake. Well, guess what, motherfucker? Every play in this game ever is enemy mistake, much like in chess. The fact that we put extra emphasis on making enemy make that mistake, we try to get them into that specific pattern so that mistake is more likely to occur, is the actual play. Okay, let's move on. Okay, I'm gonna be silent now and I'm just gonna let you absorb this one because it's the previous concept and I just want to show you like how exactly the masking of the ability works. Well, a nice way of me to take aggression to her. I can try to kill in 2 seconds. Beautiful. That was such a... That is the same exact principle explained right here, which is usually what you would do in these situations is if enemy is slightly healthier, you would go with a backwards Q. You would go Q and then early cast into the EW. So you want to bait them into the EW, which is the Shepherd Q combo. But I didn't want to specifically wait for my E, and I knew that there's a kill chance due to my comet being available. So this is exactly what transpired. We went for the WQ combo, which is a bit faster because you don't have to cast and animate E, which is a second animation. Okay, let's move on to something else now. Perfect spacing! Yes! I love it. Okay, so now that we already mentioned it, the Shepherd Q combo, I have to show you the example of the Shepherd Q combo, which probably a lot of you know about it. This is a lane state which is advantageous for me, which is why I'm actually freezing. I really want to get the enemy out of his cocoon, so he's going to be vulnerable. And as soon as he does so, as soon as he steps forward, we go in. And the Q... This is why the Q is one of the best abilities in the game by Vel'Koz. It doesn't matter if we land it, as long as we get enemy in a specific pattern. Vel'Koz abilities scale off of each other. If they shoot individually, all 3 of his Vel'Koz abilities, even 4th one, are actual dog shit. He has the worst single abilities in the entire game and the worst CC ability in the entire game. But they get exponentially stronger the better you sequence them. So the whole idea here is to do the Q into EW once we get him in a position. And I chose this specific video for one more example, which is the spacing of ult. And you've seen this principle in my stream so many times, and this works against interruptions. Even if I have cleanse, I can cleanse the gold card, but then I would have to probably flash after him to catch him up, which is something we want to avoid here. This is done versus champions like Syndra, Orianna, TF, anyone who has interruption. So you'll see what happens here. I do not ult. I took a step back. I took a step back before ulting to create enough distance to proc true damage right before the gold card hits me. But this is a very difficult thing, but you get this by time. It's just empirically like ingrained into you. If you do this a lot, you have to leave enough spacing off your ult on the left side, so he can proc true damage if they just choose to run out. Because if I space too far backwards, he just runs out, no true damage, and he lives. If I space too close, he stuns me, runs away, I have to cleanse flash. And you can see, okay, that's a fucking ruining my video. Okay, there you go. The spacing, I don't know if we need to play that in slow motion, but you get the gist, you understand, you're smart. This is fairly obvious right here, what is happening. Boom, into the backwards, just enough backwards movement, and the true damage procs right as the gold card lands. So, pretty standard. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, this clip kind of became popular. It has a lot of use. A lot of people have seen it already. But the whole idea is of enemy manipulation here. This dive, this enemy botch dive, was pretty awkward. It was pretty bad by enemies, honestly. This has been horribly played by enemies. I have both summoners available still. But we only got 1 for 1, which is... in pro play, this is fucking worth it. I would just go recall. This is amazing. This is great for us. We broke their momentum, and now we're going to utilize our mirror play topside and try to create advantage there with the jungler. Or he's just going to counter jungle and steal. Either way, in solo queue, this is not enough, and I want to give more, and I notice the potential to squeeze out more. I'm very close to level 6. So this would be impossible if I would just be like, okay, 1 for 1 is cool, and let's not do it. But... the fact that I realize that there's potential to manipulate enemies is done. We also pick up that cannon smoothly. And I really want to hover on the left side because I'm kind of baiting Shen to be in range. I don't want to move too far away to safety because I want them to think they can still salvage this dive, which is something they want to do, obviously, because they feel bad. That's kind of like human psychology. So the next thing here is I walk forward. I know they both have dashes available right now, and I know exactly the distance of dashes, which is why this clip is pretty cool. It plays on the exact expectations of enemies of dash. So I just give them just enough to entice them. So Plasma, I woke up close, just almost at the range of the dash, just so I can cast Plasma Fission. And notice them both, like meerkats, just like standing up. They both immediately get aroused. They want to chase me. So we use the Q to slow them. And this is good because I land the Q, but it's also bad because I slow them. I don't want them to be slowed. I want them to be at this exact distance. So what I do here is, this fucking player is going to make me lose my mind. So what I do here, right after, one of these days, it's gonna work. Okay, I'll try not to stop it here. You can see this. We slow him, and I notice the slow, so I have to do a very cheeky move here, which is basically I pretend I can cast W while moving backwards. By the way, I don't know if they know that W has no animation time, but I don't do it. I turn towards them to cast the W, so I just come a bit closer to them to mitigate that slow earlier. So I come to them to do W, which is stupid, but it's also they perceive it as stupid, so it's a bait. And I'm walking to them, and that prompts them to go in, and they obviously both have dash. And I just have to have decent mechanics here to respond to dash. We hit that E, and yeah, perfect ult, level up. That would be 1 kill easily if I didn't get ult, but because I was close to level up, we get both. Which is why it makes this clip clean. Like, the clip looks really clean, but I don't know, I wasn't too sure if everyone understood exactly what was going on behind the clip. Okay, let's move on to the final thing. I think it's an easy game. Well, he got 2-0, and like, a TF Blade got 2-0. That certainly does look easy. Woo! God damn! Yep, this is the infamous clip of me versus Tuesday, CLG Tuesday. And this is the video that basically got TF Blade to really mold. Okay, this is the origin of TF Blade molding. Right after this game, he was talking for like 20 minutes how the mid laner should never lose this matchup, which is actually true. TF Blade's a really good player. He knows this is hard winning for Akali, even in low pink, and I'm playing on 150 on NA. So this is a bit ridiculous, but let's take it apart and see how exactly this has been done. So there's a lot of things going on here, even though it looks deceptively simple. Now, first thing, as we talked about the high and low, this is what Vel'Koz players should always do, even if they don't consciously count every single Q, they are kind of perceiving to an extent whether they landed shortened or max range. And here, you can tell the Q lands on max range. Okay? So we've landed that Q max range, and we take a note of that. That will help us later on. So Akali goes with the E on the minion, and we know she's gonna come back. That's a pretty big mistake for Akali to use E just like that, because Akali's E is so broken. It's one of the insane abilities, and just by not having it, she gives me a bit more power in the lane, which I recognize it and I look for a more aggressive play. So on this ping, it's impossible to react as soon as she starts flying because she's super fast, so we have to predict it. And here we go for an attempt on E, where I kind of guess she's going to go for a minion. Obviously, it's too easy for her to avoid, but I realize, okay, it's not over. We can still salvage this. She's gonna go immediately after my E, so I'm just going to hit the W. And that gives me another stack. We get one extra stack on that. So there's a lot of things going on here. My Q is coming up. So guess how I'm going to use this Q. We have so many things happening. I have my W on the top side, which means she's naturally prone to going bottom side. Okay, this video is great. This video is breaking my brain. So now I'm going to shoot the Q. And are we going to go max range or are we going to shorten it? Multiple things. Above her, we have minions, and we just had our W, which is kind of like a threat zone, and she probably wants to hover a bit more to the bottom side. Earlier, she got hit by the max range, which probably gives us more chance to land the shortened one now, because she's a good player. She's gonna change the pattern, obviously. And the third thing is she just used the Q, which gives her movement speed. And movement speed is so funny in these cases. It's a very good psychological tool. The more movement speed they have, they're more prone to actually dodging towards you, because they feel more mechanically empowered by their movement speed. It's just like a psychological thing of humans. If they have huge speed, they're not just gonna run out, even though they probably could. Like they can just run out with insane speed. They try to juke with movement speed. A lot of movement speed gets them to juke, which is also like a Cassiopeia player syndrome. She keeps getting movement speed always with the Qs, so their movement is very, very predictable, and you can almost always land a backwards Q combo, which is why they get destroyed in this matchup. Anyway, I digress. I can even show you an example, or you can find it. Here, so we have three things pointing towards a shortened Q, and you bet your ass I'm going to do a shortened Q, and here you can see the moment of exact prediction. I recast before she actually dodged, so that lands. And now I know that's landing, so I'm going to land my W. And this is where the trick is. I'm going to land my ult. But she still has stealth, and I have to proc my true damage with ult, which is pretty damn difficult on Akali with insane movement speed. She also gets movement speed from Shroud. So notice how I start my laser slightly on the right, which is pretty funny because she's standing on... She has minions above, and she has my carpet below her. So for her to run upwards would be a big struggle, and she would take shit ton of damage. So I kind of zoned her upwards with my right side ult. Now, I'm going to immediately, preemptively, move it up slightly, and then we go down. Because I figured that she's going to immediately juke downwards due to the minions and my W. And then you can see another tick where we actually hit her, and she just dies. And that's just a ridiculous read that requires a lot of knowledge on a lot of different things. It does seem a bit simple when played on real speed for itself, but once you really take it apart, this is a lot of conscious and unconscious actual gameplay knowledge here coming in, and this is what it takes to actually best an Akali on 150 ping on a really high caliber player, because Tuesday is a really good mid laner. And yeah, that is the clip that made TF Blade rage. There you go, guys. We have the first time explanation of the Tuesday incident. So if you guys have any other cool ideas of what would you like me to create or explain, or any different concepts, videos, please write in the comment. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.